So welcome you all to this video lecture. So here in this video lecture we are going to discuss regarding to the bus statements. So in previous video lectures we have a clear picture regarding to the of interrupt. Now we are going to get moved from the interrupt to buses. So here this bus terms says us that let's for an example, whenever we say the processor is get communicating with the memory and an IO device, here this communicating part will be get carry forward using this bus, which means that here the bus provides us the path so through which that communication will get happens. So bus is like simply that it is a set of signal lines which will actually provides us the communication paths between the different components of the computer system. So here the processor, memory and IO devices can communicate with each other through these shared signal lines. So instead of having what a separate communications between every pairs of components, a common bus structures can be used. So that will reduces what means the hardware complexity and provides us an organized way of transferring the information. So simple thing is a processor. So bus thus will have a interconnecting network with a memory and IO devices. So this memory and IO devices get interconnected with this processor using what? The bus. So the next is the thing we need to have the clear picture is the terms such as address, data, control. So here this system bus will need to perform the functionality of where, what and what to do functionalities is using this address bus, data bus and control bus. So simply that we need to specify the operation that needs to be performed based on the requirements such as using these three bus signals such as address, data and control bus. So address bus is nothing that where we need to perform the data, which address we need to perform the data. Here this address bus will carry what? An address of memory location or an IO location where that the processor want to be get access. So let's for an example, here the processor wants to access a memory location. So something to that of location says is 1000 H address means here this it places the values 1000 H on the address bus. So automatically here the memory uses this address to identify that what a particular location involved in that operation. So therefore this address bus is mainly used to identify what a location. So in order to identify the location, this address bus can be used. So how the flow will be there means here CPU. So address 1000H is placed over in that CPU. So with respect to that of address bus, it moves over there A, B. So specify location. So this address bus tells us where the operation should be happen. So the next is the data bus. So the data bus is nothing that here the two things is criteria will perform read write. So this read and write performs as like how means. So read operation will do the performance like, so from memory it will transfer to data bus. So after that the CPU will perform over there. In write function it performs the functionality of the CPU will get interacted or it will get communicate with the data bus. So there it will do the memory operations. Simply that the database tells us what information is need to get been transferred. So the next is the control bus. So the control bus is nothing that what operations need to be performed. So if let for an example here the address bus has some address. So same 1000H I have get involved over here. The control bus will do the functionality of read. So then the data bus will move to that operation such as example here I will perform the 55 operations, which means the control bus carries what? A signal required to control and coordinate the operations. So let's for an example, a processor wants to read from the memory, it will generate a read signal. When it wants to store the data, it generates the write signals. So other control signals can also be used for the interrupt request, acknowledgement, and the completion of operations. Here from this data bus, we have control bus, what operations need to be performed. So the next is the memory read operations. Here the basic sequences of memory read operations will perform as we need to place as an address, read signal will performance. After after reading that address, it will access that specified address. So after accessing that specific memory location address, the data to be placed on the data bus. So then the CPU receives the data. So here this is the basic sequence of the read operation data. So the this sequences will perform as following to the of write operations. Here the write operation will perform as similarly to that of if I places an address, it will do just access that address. After that, the write operation will be placed over to that specified address. So the here the master slave and arbitration things has been get involved over there. So with respect to that of arbitration is the main purpose of this bus arbitration is nothing that it will is that to prevent what a conflict and it decides which requesting component can be used as and get shared over there. So the simply we can say from this video simple system bus is the basic idea of a bus as a communication pathway between where to where, the processor, memory, and IO device. So then we studied the important components such as here studied is the system bus address system bus. In that system bus address data and control buses we have a clear picture. So so the upcoming videos is we have to know how the program counter instruction registers, fetch, decode, and execute will be performed using the examples of instructions such as add, load, and store. Those things is we going to get discussed over in that upcoming videos, instruction executions. Thank you.